How you doing, guys? Welcome back. It's LSP. It's currently the 13th of December 2021. Before I get into the analysis, as always, guys, this is not financial advice, and everything that I discuss today is for educational purposes only. So before I get into the analysis on Bitcoin, I just wanted to kind of discuss a few things regarding, Bitcoin and its effect on, projects, newer projects, the altcoin market, and so on. Because from what I can see, there seems to be this reoccurring pattern that happens with, traders and investors who are in projects. And this is, I think, in my opinion, I think this is generally down to inexperience. But when somebody gets into a project, right, I like to think about the psychology that that person goes through. So they'll get into a new project, say the project starts to do well, it starts to run to the upside. They double their money, and they're thinking this is the one. I finally nailed it, I got in early. And then it starts to pull back, and they sit through it because they try to convince themselves that all of a sudden now they believe in the project, when the reality is they just want the money. you know and then you get a lot of reoccurring excuses, and it's more about validation, really, of I want to validate my position in this project because I'm starting to feel fearful, I'm starting to panic, I don't want to lose my money, and so on, right? And one of the general excuses, or one of the general validations, per se, is you start to hear, oh, the general market's down, crypto's in a bear market, we're in this, crypto winter that people, like to talk about. And Bitcoin is tanking, and that's the reason why it's holding the rest of the market down. But the reality is that what's really happening? If you look at Bitcoin, and you can see that Bitcoin's obviously moving to the downside, moving. It had a really nice aggressive move here. This is the daily chart. But you can see that we had a really nice drop. Picks up liquidity down here, and then it's kind of sitting on top of this weekly liquidity pool. All right, this is the weekly liquidity pool. So if I just quickly show you, we've got this weekly liquidity pool here, and this is a daily liquidity pool within this wick down here. Yeah, so you can see the wick just there. Right. So the price is obviously, taken a bit of a, bit of a downturn on Bitcoin. And when you at first glance look at the market, you see what supposedly looks like a sea of red. But if you start to look at some of these projects, some of the newer projects, some of the projects that have only been around for a couple of months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, you'll start to notice that if you try to pair the movement of Bitcoin's downturn with these newer projects, you'll find that in actual fact, Bitcoin isn't really affecting these newer projects that much. It's only affecting the general market sentiment. So, for example, if somebody can see that Bitcoin is down, and they would generally, like, we'll say it a different way. If Bitcoin's running up and the general market sentiment is bullish, people are quite happy. Everybody's, just, quite happy to put risk on, put some money into the market, invest in new projects and so on. Then you'll find that a lot of these newer projects will start to get pumps of money. Yeah. Because there are more investors that are much happier in the moment, and they will start to put money into some of these newer projects, or some projects that have been around, for short to medium, amount of time. Whereas when Bitcoin's in a downturn and the general market sentiment is, oh, Bitcoin's down, people start to become a little bit more tight with their money. So there is less money flowing into some of these newer projects, and thus the project itself looks like it's actually being affected by Bitcoin directly, when it's actually an indirect effect. Yeah. So the reason I'm talking about all of this is because I'm invested personally, in quite a few projects, and I'm in so many Telegram groups, I'm in so many Discord, servers, and I see the same reoccurring thing happening over and over and over and over again. People get, panicky. People start to look for, for reasons why the investment that they made was a good one, and so on. And my advice is this: take a step back and actually look at the project itself. We can all get advice from other people, and I get people that ask me, can you do this? And can you have a look at this project? Can you let me know what you're thinking? And so on. But my although I absolutely have confidence in my analysis and my research, that's another validation for that person. I don't want somebody else coming to me and saying, can you just quickly look at this project for me? let me know what you think, because I already know that person wants me to validate for them, that that project is a good one. You've made a good choice, and the reality is that's not a very good idea for anybody. This is not about me. I'm just saying in general, looking for validation from others, is never a good idea when it comes to your investments. You have to look at the project. You've got to be able to understand the project. It's no good just looking at the white paper and saying, oh, this sounds pretty cool, there's some utilities there and so on. You really have to understand what those utilities are and how they're going to be used going forward to help the project grow. And if you don't understand it, try to understand it, research, look into these utilities, start to break things down and pull yourself away, from price, pull yourself away from your P&L, pull yourself away from the actual money, and look at the longevity, of a project based on its utilities, or the potential longevity of a project based on its utilities, based on the team that's behind those projects. You guys know obviously that I'm invested in Swissborg. And Swissborg is an amazing company, and the reality is, their team and their company and what they're doing in terms of changing the industry with some of the features that they're going to be bringing to the Wealth app is absolutely phenomenal. And there were some things that even I didn't understand, and I've been around for quite some time, so I researched it. I painstakingly go and I read, I watch videos, I get, I try to contact people within the company to try to find out as much as I can. Obviously I do some work through the DAO, and I do videos for the Hollywood Squad and so on, and I do smart talks over there as well. So I'm within the culture and within the community, and we bounce a lot of ideas off each other. So because I'm so engrossed within that community, and I get to see how the community is affected and some of the things that are coming out of Swissborg. It's a great place to be for me to understand what's going on with that project. And this is my point. You have to throw yourself into the project, and try to figure out where's this project going? What's so good about this project? What's so good about these utilities? Are they unique? Do they make sense? Is this something that is going to be used in the future? Or is this just some, another fad? Is this more hype and so on? And when you do that, you start to realize that Bitcoin, as a market leader, supposedly in quotations, it doesn't really have the effect that a lot of people think it does. All right. So that's just the first part of the video. In the second part, obviously, now I'm going to be going over Bitcoin analysis for those who are interested in the analysis. So we can see we had an all-time high up here, and we've since come all the way down, as I said, into this daily liquidity pool within a weekly liquidity pool. So think about it like this. There is a primary liquidity pool, a big one, where it houses a lot of liquidity. It's not buy liquidity, it's not sell liquidity, it's just liquidity. Okay. So as price starts to reach fast, it comes all the way through the weekly liquidity pool to rest within a daily liquidity pool, which means what? This liquidity pool right here is responsible for this entire move to the upside that breaks all-time high. This is important, okay? Because what this means is that when this liquidity pool is revisited, as it has been here, so there's the run on the previous all-time high, creates a new all-time high, and then it starts to run to the downside, and it accelerates really quickly into this liquidity pool. Look at the response away from this, For those that argue with me and challenge some of the things that I discuss, look at the reaction. This is something that I simply cannot change, I can't go back. Obviously, I posted the chart with this on before it was hit a while ago. It doesn't mean that I knew price was going to go down there, but it's a key liquidity pool because I know it's responsible for the impulse to the upside. So as price comes down, look at the speed in which it goes, and it comes all the way down and hits this liquidity pool and then reacts really violently away from that. And then it starts to consolidate as it's doing now, resting on top of this weekly liquidity pool. This candle right here has literally just rebalanced price. What that means is if Bitcoin was heavily accumulated to the sell side, putting sell pressure on Bitcoin to keep coming down, okay, that's been neutralized right here because it came all the way down into the impulse that it started from, okay, and responded, quite aggressively away from that. The price sensitivity at this point is insane. Then it starts to grind sideways and it's maintaining this level. Now, this doesn't mean that price is just going to continue to the upside now. But what it does mean is that while price is neutralized, we need to start to look at other things. You can see that as price is kind of bouncing around here, we have some areas of imbalance up here. Okay, and you can see that first initial touch here, price starts to move away. So it's dipped in once, dipped in twice, dipped in 3 times. So the longer it dips into this liquidity pool, and this is where some people get it wrong. They believe that this is now support, major support, and they start to buy down in these areas. Okay, now that's not wrong and it's not right, but the way that I see it, based on my analysis and based on the way that I like to read charts, these dips are accumulations of buy liquidity now because we've reset. Yeah, so while it's accumulating buy liquidity, we need to try and figure out whether or not price is going to dip deeper into this liquidity pool to pick up more buy liquidity. Yeah, this is the key, that I'm looking for. I need to know now, is price driving lower to dip into this, deeper into this liquidity pool to pick up more buy side liquidity? Okay, we've already tapped here once. So if we do start to run back up to the upside and we start to dip into this again, okay, it will probably 95% of the time take out this high now and run deeper into this. But in terms of what we're seeing right now and where we could potentially be going, over the next sort of week, 2 weeks going into the Christmas period, you can see the stabilizing, you can see the dips. We did take out this high on that last run to the upside, but we didn't get as high as this one. And look at the impulse there. You see price comes down, then it impulses up to the upside. So if anybody was watching this at the time, okay, you would have seen something like this and you would have thought, you know what, that's a really nice candle. Likely that price is going to continue to the upside. We've already had this explosive move to the downside, blah, 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 blah. But obviously that's not what we're seeing and that's not what's happened. Okay, we've ended up with a situation where that was reversed and it dips all the way down into this liquidity pool. Then we have another breakout, which again is reversed, and it dips in again, and then it starts to grind back up to the upside, takes out this high, and then again it's reversed. So the likelihood of some continued downside on Bitcoin is quite high at the moment. And I'm going to be expecting a bit more of a move to the downside and a deeper run into this liquidity pool. If we do get anywhere near this low, which is around about the sort of 42,000 on Bitcoin, then we're probably going to end up down here around about 40,000 and slightly lower, possibly dipping into the very high 30s. Yeah, 39, 38. All right. So with that said, that's pretty much the analysis for Bitcoin. Like I said, I'm expecting a little bit more downside on Bitcoin at the moment, but we just have to be patient and kind of wait and see what happens. I've said it first. People are going to say, "Oh, you don't really say anything." I'm expecting downside on Bitcoin, and my first initial thinking is that price is probably going to kind of end up at 44,000 again, and then potentially a little bit lower, and maybe high 30s. All right, guys. So with that said, I hope everyone's having an absolutely fantastic evening. I hope everyone's having an awesome run up till Christmas, or run up to Christmas. And I look forward to speaking to you guys in the next video. All the best and take care.